Welcome. Nice to have everybody. It's the 31st of May, so last day in May, if that wasn't obvious. So Mr. Krishna Adi, he is taking an Azure certification exam, so he sends regrets. But we've got Ayush, Jabier, Gautam, Lee, Anita, Gaurav, and let's see if Lizette, if Elizabeth doesn't join as well. Maybe we'll have Josh and Nikhil. Sajjad, he's got a couple of designs out there for what would be kind of an overhaul to the /learn page, the landing page for what we currently have for books, workshops, and interactive labs. And as we go to add learning paths, what does that look like? He's been iterating on that a little bit. His network isn't treating him well. And so I don't know that he's going to be able to join. But we've got a number of other things. Gautam, it just so happened you were first on the list. Do you want to, so I don't know if since the last week, if you had focused much on LearnNG.
Yeah, so I think the last time I worked on LearnNG, I just added a component which shows the courses and available service message count, and Nikhil wired it up with GraphQL so that dynamic data could be fetched. And I think so Chinmay was working on adding the paths, I guess.
I see. Okay. So if we go take a look at, actually, this is coming together. Like if we go take a look at LearnNG as it is right now. So we've got, so this is this will be one of the harder parts, I think. That is, so today, the /learn page, I know we've talked about this like almost every time we talk about this, we end up talking about this particular item. And it's in part because we don't have a solution for it just yet. So it's how to put books, workshops, interactive labs, these three things, plus a fourth thing, learning paths, onto the same page. And like, it's definitely a solvable challenge. This is what Sajjad has been ideating on. Irrespective of this high level page, ultimately we will still have something of a Layer5 IO /learn/learning paths, probably is what we would end up calling it. Just as today we have, actually it would be probably service mesh learning paths, because today we have service mesh labs, which takes you to, a secondary top level page for the labs. Same thing for the books. You can drill in and go to /learn/service mesh books. So it's a top level page for the books. From there you can drill in, to a specific book. And then finally, like, following along this same pattern, like there's a top level page for workshops. And so you get to see all the workshops. And then from there you can drill into a specific one. And so with the learning paths, you all have seen, been through the designs that are there in Figma. I'm bringing up Figma. I'm going to stop sharing my screen to reshare my screen. Now, whoops, that was just Figma. Let me share my whole desktop. So I think some of you have probably painfully noticed that Figma has undergone some changes in their structure for how they treat projects, and well, it's confusing actually. Projects, teams, and drafts, and whether or not the projects are in a draft or in a team. And so for us, we really have two projects. and so given that we're on the free tier plan, we've been forced to have one team. In that team, there's one project. It's the Layer5 project that has, essentially all the work that we generally talk about on this call. That has caused some hiccups with trying to get people the ability to edit. If you feel the need to edit and you can't, please say something, and we'll work on it. So there's a couple of reasons why I'm bringing this up. Is next week, hopefully we'll get a presentation from Sajjad on some ideas with respect to that high-level landing page. But in the meantime, of what we were just talking about, I think it's makes sense to look at, like, the sitemap hopefully makes sense when we're talking about breaking down the various sections. So there's this /learn, /learn/books, learn/workshops, learn/labs. Like, we were just looking at these three. And so there'll be a fourth, learning paths. That's, the conceptual structure. So good. This is a little bit of a refresher for me on the status of how far along we are. Boy, some of these Zoom windows really get in the way. So Gautam, I could be deceived, but it looks like what you're saying is potentially coming true around the use of the restructuring of these components and the ability to count them up and retrieve that count through GraphQL. These numbers are believably low. So I believe that they're being dynamically retrieved. So the next level of detail for a given learning path, it looks like that. We haven't made it there yet. We did break out this work to a number of individuals. And so I'm curious, and with Nikhil, I guess I'm curious who all is making progress here. I think Chinmay's on the list.
Yeah, Chinmay is on the list, and he's we are waiting for a PR from him. Once we have, then we will have a better structure to. He has some updates, but he's kind of busy with this college work, so exams simultaneously. So we are getting some delay in that. But
Okay.
apart from him, I don't think anyone else is assigned to any of the issues. So a lot of people have been asked to work on it, but they haven't shown any interest as of yet.
Yeah. Okay. So for Chinmay, it's been the sidebar, which is like the table of contents. Okay, which makes sense.
The sidebar is not assigned to anyone yet. That was assigned to soccer, but
I see.
since he is not yet progress yet, he's still in the learning phase. So we have
Yeah.
asked him to keep it unassigned so that if anyone else comes, we can assign it to him. Chinmay is
Okay.
currently working on the chapter's homepage, which will be the overview page. And he has also asked that if he could work on the courses page. But the thing with the courses page is we don't have a design as of yet. We are waiting for Austin for update, but I've pinged him multiple times, but we haven't got any update.
Say which homepage are you referring to?
Yeah, if you zoom into the top right, not the
Oh, to the
wireframe, I
top one.
guess the final design. Yeah, the third page. Yeah, this is the page on which Chinmay is working on currently. And we will have an intermediate page, which is a courses page. That would be combination. If you go to the wireframe, yeah. So I am expecting the courses page to be combination of these two pages, which are on the focus right now. Yeah. So that basically the courses page on the top will have a prerequisite section which would highlight, okay, the user should install Mastery and get to know about stuff, and then he can continue with the courses that he has. So I asked him to I've asked Austin a few days back to merge them and create a separate design for this page so that we can continue with the courses page as well. But I think we are lacking a design for that.
Okay. Yeah, I could imagine. I imagine I would be surprised if he delivers. He might. So to help, to help clarify, of the design that you're looking for, it would be, is it a refinement? Is it a high fidelity mockup of the lab page?
The lab page is fine. I think we will have a Katagoda URL in that and with some text. So that is fine. But that would be enhanced with the time once we have one course completely finished and a working structure of the site. Then we can enhance the individual pages if at all required.
Okay. And so repeat again for me, if you would, what you're looking for Austin to do.
Okay, so if you scroll a bit left towards left.
My mouse isn't. Hold on. Okay.
It will be easier to scroll if you select the hand so that you will be able to click and drag. So yeah, so the middle two pages, one which has the machinery listed in three boxes. Yeah, that would be on the top of the second page, which will have the courses listed in the horizontal cards. So that is I wanted, like I expected the design something like that. Not exactly of that, so like there might be some changes to the design, but kind of that.
Okay. Okay. Is that to combine the two, basically to combine the two pages?
Yeah, yeah.
If I, okay.
Yes.
So kind of you're sort of having, okay. So for a given, this just probably isn't very well worded or isn't using the right learning paths, courses, course page. I think he broke this down, maybe one. Okay. Well, maybe with the change of hands of designers, maybe I need to go get my hands dirty. Which, which is that's just what you wanted to hear. In part because there's a lesson page, course overview and content. We might actually be inserting one more page than is necessary.
Yeah, the one more page would be the courses page, which would list out the individual courses in that design which you're focusing right now.
Okay, right. And this is the one. Yep, this is the one that you were just talking about, and you were thinking like, oh, it might make sense if there was the three or the. Actually, we can probably pull this out. Hey, look at that. We're doing it right now. So anyway, okay. So we probably shouldn't do this right now, but so Gautam or whomever, one of the things that remains, well, I was going to say an open challenge is so Chinmay has assignment of an open issue that is to work on this table of contents. I don't believe that there is an open issue for this component right here, which is a framework switcher.
So this is something which is dependent upon Chinmay's PR. Actually, the problem over here with the development and current with this site is a lot of things are interconnected because the way the data is fetched from GraphQL. So until unless we have the previous section, we will not be able to progress with the other.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I would have invested some time in this part, but currently a bit occupied with the office work, so I'm not able to invest in this. But
Yeah.
I could, if I get some time, I will rectify the design which I'm seeing for the courses page, the other courses page by merging the two pages from the wireframe to get an
Oh,
idea, and at least we will have something to, okay, instead of having a blank page, we will have something for the user to, or anyone when we are discussing on the site to view, like what's the purpose of.
right. Um, good. Yeah. And I in part didn't ask, or I didn't ask about you specifically because you had signaled about some of the upcoming work at work. And so there's might be like this particular item right here. This might be one that could be broken out and delivered independently. It's sort of an advertisement, if you will. And so just on this,
We can even use a discuss link instead of the.
yeah, that's a great thing to begin to do. That's actually a good topic to talk about, is integrating Discuss and links to Discuss and their categories across the site. That's something I asked Sajad just yesterday to begin to consider. Okay, so I guess I'm trying to get to actionable items, and that is that. Is there anyone on the call that wants to grab a hold of this as an independent section, and like just an independent? Actually, I mean, this is so small. Like, it could be a couple of them. One that is this, and a different one that calls for people to join the Discuss forum. Any takers on this? Anita, that's wonderful.
The Sigma design is ready, I could do that.
Sure.
Okay, yeah.
Sigma design is ready, I could do that.
Oh, okay, beautiful.
Design.
Is that Ayush? Okay, Ayush, I'm gonna hold you in reserve for a different item. You've been tagged already.
Okay.
But thank you very much for speaking up, though. That's really nice. As it turns out, I didn't realize the untapped talent that we have in Anita. Anita, this actually is this is probably a nice one for you to do.
Okay. To create an issue and then fix it right away, right?
If you would.
Okay. No
Yeah,
problem.
and Anita, there's some room for creativity as well. Is in concept. This little, actually, I think I opened an issue on this. Maybe either that or I just asked Sajad. I might have just asked Sajad in the website's channel, and that is on a related note. So while we're talking specifically about this next generation version of, or while we're talking about the learning paths page and how it might have a call out to like go join the community, well, there can be a very similar one that's a call out to go engage in the service mesh forum, and join the, like, there's another flavor of these to potentially make that would point people to Discuss.
All right.
But on that same, like along those same lines, if you'll notice that today we have these call to action sections where we'll ask people to join the community, or we'll ask them to sign up for the newsletter. Well, those are also opportunities to ask people to engage in the discussion forum. So I'm just kind of randomly going to a page on the site, sort of any page. We go to the bottom of it. It it doesn't really have a call to action. It's just the content of the page and then the footer. Okay, fine. If we go to a different page, like a blog post, it's the blog posts and the footer. Okay, we'll look at an individual blog post at the bottom. It's related blogs. Okay, that's That's good. That's specific. People can keep reading things. If we go to the brand page, like logos for people, okay. There's no call. Again, this is, in some respects, this is showing all the opportunity that we have to have a call to action in between the bottom of whatever that specific page's content is and the footer. So I don't know, let's go to books. Okay, so on the books overview, there is a call to action, and it is go try out the interactive labs. Okay. At the bottom of the interactive labs, there's a call to action to join the community. Okay. Events. So yeah, like this doesn't have a call to, so there's a bunch of pages that where we can potentially have, so here the call to action is to subscribe. But you can see like the design is actually really, really simple. You know, just like engage in discussion, join over here, you know, something to, on a related note as you dig in, something that maybe we could do a small design of what some of these call to actions would be for engaging in the Service Mesh forum. I don't know. Anita, is that, I know that some of that last part of what we just talked about wasn't really explicit instructions, but in general.
If I got you right, you were saying that each of the pages have to have a call to action at the bottom, right?
Ideally, like, yeah, it's okay if, in general, yes. It's okay if certain ones don't, because it either feels forced or it feels too markety. But in
Okay.
general, yeah, the lack of having a call to action on a page is an opportunity for us to consider putting one. And when we do, since we really aren't telling people about the discussion forum yet, like that's a good opportunity to tell them about that.
Okay. All right, I'll get to this one.
Cool.
First, and then
then
I'll add some more.
cool. Good. One step at a time. Yeah, good. Okay. Nikhil, are we okay to move on past the learn stuff?
Yeah, sure. We can.
Okay. So, Jubier, get Nighthawk.
Hey, so Get Nighthawk is getting some work done recently. Yeah, yesterday Anita pushed a peer request and it got accepted. It needs a lot of work.
The site itself does. Yeah. And so, Jubier, like, just, I guess, you know, in terms of how far along we are, one way of measuring that is to look at this design spec and look at the various sections that we thought we might have. So these items there's a significance to the orange. And I think the orange is,
It's written down there. Design implementation pending.
okay. Design implementation.
So I think the design is done but not implemented. It's meaning that, I think.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out as well. So there's a page in Figma called Site Nighthawk. There's one called Project Nighthawk. The Project Nighthawk is the project page on the Layer5 site. The site Get Nighthawk is that of, you know, the dedicated website. So these are the docs, the overview. So the design for resources. Yeah, we might be missing the design for the design, not just the implementation. Like
Oh, I see.
learn
Video
about.
sections. Yep, these components are not ready yet. Can see those.
Yeah, and the thing is they're. It's okay for us to not have some of these sections. Insert your name here. Okay, navbar. Okay. I think previously there were a number of people that were contributing and we were encouraging people to pick up the individual sections. I guess, you know, whether you're tracking against this or just in your mind, I mean, some of the areas are obvious that content is missing, but you know, so a different picture or a different description. A lot of that isn't, you know, some of that is kind of out of your hands, or like you can try to source some images and things like that, but you would expect that those are probably delivered. So of the outside of the content, in your mind, like what do we have undone areas, like things that have yet to be completed?
Not similar to the design. I think afterwards it gets done, like the design thing, then we can move forward and discuss that it may need more work to be done. For now, it's okay to implement the design as the designer specified, I guess.
Yeah. I'm wondering though. Okay, good. Maybe the thing for you to do is to, if you would, maybe itemize where you consider that the current implementation doesn't align with the design, and to itemize those.
Okay. Yesterday, I suggested some suggestions I gave that a section changed the color. So what should I do respect to the designer spec? Suppose if you go to, not here actually. Yeah, okay, you can go to the pull request. Closed. Yeah, here. It's on the bottom. Here you can see I suggested this suggestion like this color is not matching with the navbar color. So I suggested to change it, but it's not as like the designer specification. So what can be done here? Should we keep it like the designer specified, or we should move to an more suggested path?
Yeah, good question. We should. Well, so the problem with the white, this off white, it actually, like, I don't know if it's just on my screen or what, but it looks like very, very light purple, and which is not the desired color. Moving to, I guess for my part, I don't know that I'm entirely sold on the light green either, but it is better than the off white, than that light purple. And so, yeah, making the two, so falling in line with the light green is probably the right way to go.
Because when the navbar was coming down, this section looked a little bit awkward. So I suggested that it may get a color change. In this situation, should we have a design meeting or something to discuss about this, or how should we take care of this?
Yeah, that's actually this meeting. Like this would be the one.
Yeah.
Even the background is not matching, if you see.
Like this background here.
What is Nighthawk? It's just whole white in the UI implemented right now. But if you see design, the Nighthawk is having the two separate colors in the design.
Okay, and navigate me to where you mean between here and here?
Here, you can see the images are being cut by a line. You can see that. What is
Okay,
Nighthawk? But
yeah.
they are in the implemented one in the site. You can see it's just much above.
Oh, okay.
It's, that could be
Right.
much
Yeah.
better.
I think part
Nice
of
catch.
the yeah. Go ahead.
Nice catch. I didn't
Yeah.
notice that.
And it's definitely nice to have some amount of overlap. Like the part of the reason for having it diagonal like this is, yeah, it's slightly more interesting than having it horizontal. But part of the bigger reason is to tie two individual sections together. So I use your point about the lack of overlap. That's the majority of the logic behind why the design was done like that in the first place. So it's an important point that you're making. It's potentially the reason, no, yeah, it is something to fix now. I was going to say maybe the reason not to fix it right now is because like this will change what this says, but having said that, even while it changes, we still want for that effect to go on. Like, this isn't the actual image. This is just a placeholder image. But when the new one comes, yeah, we still want it to go on, this diagonal line to go underneath. So, yeah, I mean, it could be the case that we review and itemize, like Javier, I think to begin to use like the commenting feature in here and start to iterate on the design. The other individual that can be helpful here is Sajad. Between probably Sajad and myself. So the guy that originally did these, his internship has ended. And so I don't
Vinay.
anticipate. No, Austin,
Oh,
Augustine. And Vinayak is still the guy that was leading the implementation. Vinayak, he just got an internship, and so he's somewhat tied up. But so engage with me and engage with Sajad, and let's like clarify any of the design. For now, of the single question that you're asking, I would say let's get rid of the off-white. That purple is not great. Moreover, that means like a change in the design, because right now the menu changes to this off-white.
Yep.
It's basically like light purple. And I'd asked Austin to get rid of it in the past. And for as talented of a visual designer as he is, he's also very stubborn. And so this needs to go though. And we could just leave it. We could leave it the same color. That would actually be fine. A light green.
okay. Our Netlify build is working right now. We can, instead of going for, we can, instead of doing from GitHub pages, we can do the deployment from Netlify. That could be a suggestion.
Yeah, nah, we don't get anything. What do we get that's better from there? Nothing, other than you're gonna have to pay for the service at some point.
That's right also.
I mean, if there was something compelling that we were not getting, then that could be helpful.
Yep.
But, okay, so Javier, I guess to wrap this up, there are some things in the implementation that are not in alignment with
Design.
the design.
Yep.
We need to, like, for lack of a better suggestion, we would change this from the off-white to the green, or just leave it green. think the footer is probably off in the design as well. Let's see. Oops. What is the footer? Okay, this is probably fine. This is pretty small, but the docs were an area of recent like uplifting, and why the entire page is like these are all opening in new windows. So I mean that's definitely a bug. We don't want to open the sites pages in a
Why
new
is the
window.
footer coming up? I don't understand that. That is also coming up.
Right here.
Hmm.
Yeah, that needs fixed as well.
Yeah, it's a fix requirement. Okay, so I will
Not
try to
only
identify
that,
some issues
also the
with the
blue.
design and the implementation, and we'll open some issues in GitHub so people can take a look at it and resolve them.
There is
We'll do
a gap after footer also. We could just slide it down, I think.
Yeah, the overall padding and margins needs to be fixed. Like I'll open up an issue and I'll direct if anyone's ready, so I can direct him or her to how we can fix it. So like I'll take care of the padding and margins for them.
That'd be great. Yeah, please. Yeah.
I just hit the footer issue for responsiveness now, so I could implement that while I'm doing the responsiveness.
Awesome.
Did anyone
Perfect.
hear me?
Yeah, you said you wrote up the issue for lack of responsiveness in the footer, and once you're done with the other item in Learn NG, that you would come to focus on that. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Nice. So yeah, so I need a responsive footer, Josh, margins and some new issues. Javier, you're gonna open a couple issues, and then I think you're also looking at changing the menu color. We should also give consideration. I think it was what's his name, something Kumar. I forget his first name, but it starts with an S. Or was it Sharma? I can't remember. But a contributor that I've never spoken to. I think he was just working on part of the site, and one of the things that he was working on is like getting rid of or making sure that the spacing here was
accurate.
left. Yeah.
Nikhil Sharma.
Oh, okay. Oh, Nikhil Sharma. Okay. Yeah, that's along with the spacing. Also, I don't know if he had addressed the color, but the design is probably fine. Like, but the color, the blue color, is an issue for us. Like we need, for lack of anything more creative, like it either needs to be some shade of this green or potentially the yellow. But when you think about like what colors are being used here for Get Nighthawk, like it's those colors. By the way, in general, there's this Layer5io/brand. There's a page that calls out like for the different projects, you know, where the logos and if they have a color scheme, what is that? And generally, they broadly share the same colors, very much so on purpose, so that they look like they're coming from the same, you know, team, same. And so if you're looking for inspiration as to like what we might change that blue, the blue that we were just looking at, like this doesn't, I don't know, this is, I'm trying to think of nice words to describe this. Anyway, it needs improvement. This color is slightly off from this color. This purple is slightly off from this light blue, which is, you know, the contrast here is fine, like, but the color blue is all wrong, and it's the same for this. And so there are definitely, you know, charcoal, teal blue. There's other colors to choose from, at Casper. Generally it would be hard to go wrong if you're using from within this color palette. So, but this darks.
SAS in that. If we are using the element, like we have a color palette for every pages, so we can use SCSS rather than normal CSS and inline styles. It will just create variables so that there is no variations at all.
Hold on. Okay. Get back to the meeting minutes. So one, it's Nikhil Sharma. Then two, Ayush is getting sassy with Lee. Just going to take a note of that, Ayush. And, oh, sorry. Just yeah, totally. I'm a SAS believer. For a bunch of reasons. Actually, one of the reasons I'll point out, and I think Ayush might have pointed out something similar recently, and that is, has anyone, and we're actually going to talk about the Meshry docs on the call, but if anyone's worked on it before and you've tried to add a style like this rounded rectangular thing, if you go look at the single CSS file for the site, it's only 2,500 pages or lines long or whatever it is. Like it's ridiculous. There's no one can be bothered or expected to go find an existing style and reuse it. But when but if you follow sort of a SAS way and you're breaking it down into individual pages, it's so much more manageable and reusable through variables and other things. Like it's a lot better. So yeah, in general, SAS for sure. And then since I brought this up, I did want to have this as a brief topic right here. So are we okay to switch off of Get Nighthawk? Or were there a couple more notes that we needed to take first? Color.
So I think we need to push the Get Nighthawk updates in the newcomers meeting. So that would be like, I'll try to attend if possible the next newcomers meeting. But I think Anita would be hosting, or so she could take the charge of introducing the website and the updates. So I've already created an issue. I also drop it in the newcomers channel, and also uh, so if it's mentioned once in the meeting, then people can take care of it.
Okay, I'll include that in the newcomers meeting.
Nice. Jubier, any other notes that we need to capture here?
I think we have covered everything for now. Let's move forward with other things.
Okay, good. Sorry, I just remembered last thing I was going to try to look at is, yeah, boy, all these links are opening up a parent window, or I mean a new window. You might try testing out the docs themselves, because I don't know that the layout and the system is quite working. Okay.
I will try to put some placeholders there and see if it's working. Will that work?
Please. Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay.
Now I guess we can engage with this Nikhil Sharma seemed like he was doing pretty well.
Yeah, he is very responsive. Let's.
Kinda seems fishy to me.
Yeah, the color does seem fishy in general.
No, not that. I'm talking about that person. I was just going through his profile in the GitHub, and suddenly I don't know what happened to him. From 2-3 days, he started contributing all the open sources.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
I don't
sure.
know what he was trying to do. Like it was 0, then it's 55 contributions in a day.
Whoa. Yeah. 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 Yeah, that happens.
Maybe he's trying GSOC or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. People, I don't blame anyone for building up their resume. That's great. But yeah, but you can tell a difference between when people are just like, hardline focused on just that. They end up, it's unfortunate for them because in the process of trying to build experience quickly and show a bunch of contributions across different things, they end up diluting themselves and really not gaining much experience at all. So sometimes it's better to just choose one or two, go deep. You can always switch and go to some other ones, but go deep for a while. So some things that we probably won't talk about today, but Kashambi was going through, so who's a recent community member, she was going through the service mesh labs, and in the content of them was having a little bit of a challenge. And I'm sure that there are any number of bugs in those. What I had highlighted to her, and she seems excited about it, is that the labs themselves, they are open source. They're in a repository, the interactive labs on Layer5 IO, they're in this repository here. So the 8 or so that we have, or however many, they're right here. These any changes in this gets pushed to catacoda.com. So if you go in and look at an interactive lab, like this markdown is literally the steps that you see as you walk through the lab. So if there's any bugs, it can be fixed here. And so hopefully she will be stepping through some of this. There's no question in my mind that she will need some help. So this is one of those things we might want to put it as a discussion on the community call to pull in some others who have some operations knowledge and some, to attract some others to help. Just a note. So the item that I was going to, there are probably two items to also talk about. We generally don't talk about Meshery on this call. Meshery's user interface, though, is written in React, and it's web-based application. Maybe this is something for us to talk about here later. Maybe not, but the Meshery UI the user experience is not good. The visuals in there are okay. They certainly could stand to be improved, overhauled even. They're not egregiously poor though, they're okay. The user experience, the way that the user interacts and the type of components, the user flow for someone who has a task to perform, if they're trying to run a performance test, for example, like how many clicks does it take to do that? What screens do they go through to do that? It's not good. And so this is something that's been on the backlog for a while, is to try to, overhaul is like probably the right word. So just a note of hopefully future discussions to come. Maybe this is the right call. Maybe it's not. I don't know. I do think that this is in part the right call. Actually, to Josh's point about some of the things that we're discussing here being good fodder. Oh, Elizabeth is on. Maybe we should talk about. To Josh's point about some of this being good fodder for the newcomers call. Here's another one that is kind of good fodder for the newcomers call, or it's good for us to discuss so that newcomers can be successful. And that is, we've been centralizing some of the contributor guides to Meshery. And one of those guides is how to contribute to Meshery documentation. So if you go to docs.meshery.io and you look over in contributing, or this has been restructured recently, so hopefully this is a little bit better. But if you go to contributing, there are different guides that are being broken down, into individual sections. And so one of those is Meshry docs. And right now it's fairly straightforward. It talks about the fact that, some of the tech that's being used, Jekyll and how to get going with Jekyll, how to grab the code and check, do some git commands and etc. One of the things that a lot of people, if anyone's running Windows, it looks like we have a bug right here. If we're running Windows, the contributor often has a hard time with Jekyll. And so there have been instructions that have been written up, and this needs to be updated. Part of the area that this needs to be updated on is that if you're going to add documentation, what are the conventions and the existing features of this theme that you should be taking advantage of? Like, well, one of those is there's a clipboard feature. So if you want someone to be able to copy something to clipboard, what do you do and how do you make sure that that works? And there's actually a few other features, some of which are called out in the design spec for the documentation itself, like how to use certain, use the clipboard, or use how hyperlinks are being auto-generated for, like there's various things that have yet to be documented. So this is an open area of need. This is what I was just going to call out today. Does this make sense to people? That if this is of interest to anyone, I guess that in general help is being asked for. So think about that. I guess of the time that we have left, which is almost none. Elizabeth, it's nice to have you. If we have time, do you want to talk about the newcomers forum? And Elizabeth, are you there? So, okay. So we might not be able to talk about it today if Elizabeth's audio isn't working. There's an open pull request that she has in progress to take this newcomers Google form, which is a multi-stepped form, and migrate it to a web-based form. Which I think is the draft. Hey, Elizabeth.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, sorry. I was trying to fix my mic.
Oh, okay, sure. So, Elizabeth, I think of what's left here is lesser about the technical implementation and maybe more about the flows that we have. I think Austin he had a hard time with some instructions, really good visual designer, but just struggled in other areas. And one of those was that having a standards by selection is probably not what we should have. And it's also confusing as to when they go through, like the fact that they would go look at something and then come back, or like there's nothing for them to do here. It's like, well, no, they should just fill in we should just not categorize people as such. We should say they're either here as a user or a contributor. We'd probably use the word contributor, not developer, because for those that might be contributing to other things, it sort of leaves them in no man's land. Like,
Okay.
but so yeah, I think it was more of a look at the flow. And so,
Oh, sure. Yeah, I think I'll just check out the flow again. It should be on Figma, right?
yeah, that also gives me pause because I know of a lot of the feedback that I get. Yeah, I guess this action item sort of points back to me that I don't know that Austin accounted for the feedback given. So I'll go look in Figma as well and make sure that yes, it is the place to look and that it is correct. I'll send a
Okay,
note.
sure.
I think though that the rest of the form is hooked up to an automation that will process when people click submit. I think that that's the case. So that's something we can test out as well. I'll just do this quick test and then I think we're about out of time. So I clicked submit. If I don't get an email, then the automation isn't hooked up. So that's something for me to check on as well. Okay. So I don't know why I'm taking action items on paper. It should be in here. Okay. Yeah. Elizabeth, any other comments on this as we go to wrap up?
I actually do not have any other comments, except the feedback just gave.
Okay, very good. Well, so Elizabeth, I owe you a couple of things. And other than this, I think that's a wrap for today. Did we miss anything, anybody?
So I wanted to inquire something about discuss. So I saw you have created the new categories, and we have locked them because I think we are. So are we thinking of some initial topic that will be posting and then opening up the conversation for others?
You know, I might have done the wrong thing. I might have done something by accident. So what I was intending to do is like this first pinned introduction.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that what I was doing is locking just this particular discussion, this particular topic, but leaving the category open for anyone to create new topics. So, because we really didn't need like a bunch of commentary on what the topic.
Then it's correct. Like, not there's no fault in that issue. Like,
Okay.
that's the perfect way of doing that.
But then, yeah, to your point, like,
Yeah.
you know, seeding some additional content though. Yeah. There's, I have some things to go write down or go questions to answer. Like one of those is the fact that Meshri is the #1 sought after, you know, internship on LFX. Like that's just an interesting thing to put up here. And it's you know, point of pride. It could go into Meshri. If we had a community category, it could go in there as well. Or it could just be an announcement like, oh, Meshri is the #1, you know, LFX project? And Josh, that's certainly something that you could do. It doesn't need to come from me. I mean,
Yeah. And apart from that, so I just saw a comment about the like the wizard. So like Anita was not able to see the wizard. So that's the problem, because wizard is only visible to admins. So that's why she's seeing the empty blank page.
is it okay? Is it possible to disable the wizard, or like do we?
Disable in the sense like you cannot go to the link.
Okay. Okay, so it's not an open risk, so to speak. So okay. Anita, do you know? Are you able to see these statistics? Hopefully, in the dashboard. So by the way, for everyone, I mean, I think most of you are aware, but we're just starting this site, and yeah,
I have to see this. I on something. So on the web drop. Okay. All right. So, site work. I want to drop it's Slack. Yeah, most of the comments in case someone wants them. So that's a great. But then on the comments dropped.
that was an impressively long delay for her response. Wow. That's too bad. I don't think I quite got what she.
I think we can catch up with her on Slack.
Okay.
If like as we are going beyond the meeting time.
Yeah, good point. So there's Josh, an open question for you and for everyone else. Then the last one for me is just, do we need are we missing a category, one for contributing or community? As it's something to think about.
Contributing to the community, yeah.
Points that
Yeah, say
want
it again,
to ask
Anita.
questions like persons coming from the Linus Foundation always want persons coming from Linus Foundation always want to ask questions as to how they want to go about the procedure. So if there's like a general forum where contributors can come and drop their own ideas and the suggestions and questions, that would make sense too.
I think you're answering that question of should there be another category, either another category for community, either called community or called contributing. That makes it fairly obvious that those types of questions can probably, there's like a general bucket for those. Sounds like we should explore having that, because people could ask that question in the Meshery category.
Yeah,
like
I think community is the right word.
Community. Okay. Yep. Okay, cool. That answers that. To Josh's point, we're 11 minutes over. And so,
and also sorry, I wanted to point, I included the code of taken seriously on point, but then I didn't drop a link to where the code of conduct is for persons who want to read through the code of conduct. You can see it.
oh, half of what you said was dropped, but you were saying you've enhanced the code of conduct. The people don't necessarily see a link to it, though, I think is what you were saying.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. They should, or like especially after they've signed in, it should be available to them that. And so, yeah, actually having links to the code of conduct in the community category, that's probably another good use of that category. Not that the code of conduct doesn't apply to all the categories, just in terms of where it gets exposed.
Yeah, so like we can have the category, the general category, where similarly we'll pin the first discussion revolving around the code of conduct or the Slack invitation and all those important links, maybe.
Makes sense. You know, yeah. Another just as a reminder, like another a great site to be looking at and modeling after. This one, it's very, very well done. As a matter of fact, like super minimal, or not super minimal, but minimal and clean. So they've got the new top. That like this is I'm logged in, but if I were to log out, I mean, first of all, it's very, very clean. There's a sign in, log in, sign in. They have like an announcement about a workshop. Other than that, it's just straight into the forums. They have an announcements category, latest stuff that we do, categories for their products. They do have a couple general ones. They have one about jobs. So ours could be community, which could be inclusive of jobs and other things. They have some where they were clearly just trying to get people engaged and like talking about different things. The events. So this is a good one to go look at. But thank you, Gautam. And so, yeah, given that we're over time, like I would just encourage us to look here and model after what they've done, see where they're exposing the code of conduct. Probably after you log in. So. Okay. Thank you all. See you in Slack. Talk to you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.